Thank you for visiting the Combs Waterkotte YouTube channel. We are a leading criminal defense law firm in Illinois and Missouri, with over 600 perfect reviews and a long history of client satisfaction, criminal case dismissals, charge reductions, and victories. Our firm has created these audio articles to help protect your freedom, reputation, and rights. If we are hired for your case, we will not give up until you receive fair justice. Armed Robbery Lawyers, Chicago, Illinois. Facing armed robbery charges in Chicago, Illinois is an extremely serious situation with life-altering consequences. Armed robbery is considered the most severe form of robbery under Illinois law, charged as a felony with harsh sentencing enhancements due to the presence of a weapon. In the most extreme cases, a conviction can result in decades of mandatory prison time, leaving little room for leniency once a sentence is imposed. If you've been arrested or accused of armed robbery in Chicago, you need an experienced criminal defense attorney immediately. The stakes are simply too high to face these charges alone. At Combs Waterkotte, our attorneys understand the complexities of armed robbery cases and are prepared to build a strong defense aimed at protecting your rights, your freedom, and your future. Chicago, Illinois. Armed Robbery Lawyers, serving all of Cook County. Armed robbery charges in Chicago and throughout Cook County are aggressively prosecuted, with authorities often seeking the maximum penalties available under Illinois law. With so much at stake, having a skilled defense team on your side can make a critical difference in how your case unfolds. At Combs Waterkotte, we bring more than 8 decades of combined experience to defending clients against serious felony charges like armed robbery. We understand that every case has its own story, and we take the time to build a defense strategy tailored to your specific circumstances. Our team carefully examines every detail, from police procedures to witness statements, to identify weaknesses in the prosecution's case. From the outset, our goal is to have your charges reduced or dismissed whenever possible. But if your case goes to trial, we're fully prepared to advocate for you in court and fight for the best possible outcome. If you're ready to protect your future and take control of your defense, contact Combs Waterkotte today at 312-500-HELP or reach out to us online. The sooner you have an experienced legal team on your side, the stronger your position will be moving forward. What is armed robbery in Chicago, Illinois? Armed robbery is the most severe robbery charge that prosecutors can bring against someone in Chicago under Illinois law. It's an extreme instance of a standard robbery charge which, under 720 ILCS 5/18-1, is defined as using force or the threat of force to take someone else's property. Illinois' armed robbery statute maintains that individuals can be charged with armed robbery when, while committing a robbery offense, they have a dangerous weapon on their person, has a firearm on their person, discharges a firearm while robbing someone, shoots and injures or kills someone during a robbery. Illinois' aggravated vehicular hijacking statute essentially covers robbery cases that involve stealing a car. Aggravated vehicular hijacking is very similar to armed robbery. A person in Chicago may be charged with aggravated vehicular hijacking when they commit a standard vehicular hijacking with the following aggravating factors: stealing a car from someone 60 years of age or older, stealing a vehicle that contains a passenger under 16 years of age, stealing a vehicle while an individual has a dangerous weapon on their person, stealing a vehicle while an individual has a firearm on their person, stealing a vehicle while discharging a firearm, stealing a vehicle and shooting someone else, causing great bodily harm, permanent disability or disfigurement, or death. The penalties for armed robbery-related offenses are some of the most punitive under the Illinois Criminal Code. A conviction can change the course of someone's life forever. Armed robbery sentence in Chicago, Illinois. Under Illinois law, armed robbery is always charged as a felony offense. It even reaches the required threshold to be charged as a forcible felony. Specifically, the offense is a Class X felony, which comes with a possible prison sentence between 6 and 30 years. On top of these already long sentences, certain scenarios can result in harsh sentencing enhancements, including an additional 15 years in prison for being armed with a firearm, an additional 20 years in prison for firing a gun during the robbery, an additional 25 years to life in prison for shooting and injuring or killing someone during a robbery. An aggravated vehicular hijacking conviction is similarly punitive. Aggravated vehicular hijacking is also a Class X felony offense in Chicago and Cook County, and the offense carries similar sentence enhancements as armed robbery. A 7-year minimum prison sentence for using a deadly weapon. 15 additional years in prison for being armed with a firearm. 20 additional years in prison for discharging a firearm. 25 additional years to life in prison for shooting and injuring or killing someone during the hijacking. Due to the incredibly serious nature of these charges and the strict penalties that come with them, it's vital to hire a criminal defense attorney if you're facing armed robbery-related charges in the Chicago or Cook County area. Criminal defense strategies against Chicago armed robbery charges. At Combs Waterkotte, we've helped people in Chicago facing armed robbery charges before. This experience has allowed us to develop some effective criminal defense strategies to secure acquittals, dismissals, and charge reductions in these cases. Some of the most common strategies we use in these cases are listed here. Disputing use or possession of a firearm. Because Illinois imposes severe sentencing enhancements for firearm involvement, challenging whether a firearm was actually used in a Chicago robbery is essential. The defense may argue that no weapon was present or that the object in question was misidentified. By undermining this element, an attorney may be able to avoid mandatory sentence add-ons that significantly increase prison exposure in Chicago armed robbery cases. Lack of intent to commit armed robbery. Armed robbery charges in Chicago require proof that the defendant knowingly committed a robbery while using a weapon or firearm. A lack of intent defense argues that the accused did not plan or intend to carry out a robbery involving a weapon. This may apply in chaotic or rapidly evolving situations where the defendant's actions are misinterpreted, potentially weakening the prosecution's ability to prove each required element of the offense. Mistaken identity. Chicago armed robbery charges rely on eyewitness testimony in many cases. Witness testimony can be unreliable under stressful conditions. A defense strategy may focus on mistaken identity, particularly when a weapon heightened fear and impaired perception. Attorneys may challenge identification procedures, highlight inconsistencies, and present alibi evidence. Creating doubt about whether the defendant was the armed individual involved can be decisive in serious felony prosecutions. Insufficient evidence of force or threat with a weapon. Armed robbery requires proof that force, or the threat of force, was used while armed. A defense lawyer may argue that the prosecution lacks sufficient evidence to prove this element. For example, if no clear threat was made or the alleged weapon was never displayed, the charge may not meet the legal standard, opening the door to reduced or dismissed charges. Fourth Amendment violations. Chicago armed robbery cases frequently involve the recovery of alleged weapons during police searches. If those searches violated the Fourth Amendment, the defense can move to suppress the evidence. Without the weapon, prosecutors may struggle to prove the armed element required for conviction. This strategy can significantly weaken the case or lead to reduced charges in Cook County courts. Challenging Miranda rights and the Fifth Amendment violations. Confessions or admissions made by a defendant can heavily influence Chicago and Cook County armed robbery prosecutions. If law enforcement failed to provide proper Miranda warnings or used coercive interrogation tactics, those statements may be inadmissible. By excluding damaging admissions for Fifth Amendment violations, the defense can significantly weaken the prosecution's case, especially where evidence of a weapon or intent is otherwise limited. Duress or coercion in armed robbery allegations. In some cases, a defendant may argue they were forced to participate in an armed robbery under threat of immediate harm. Duress or coercion defenses require showing there was no reasonable way to avoid participation in the robbery. For example, if another individual wielding a weapon compelled the defendant's involvement, this could negate criminal responsibility by demonstrating the defendant's actions were not voluntary. What to do after an armed robbery arrest in Chicago? If you're arrested for or charged with armed robbery in Chicago or Cook County, it's vital to know your rights so you can aid in your own criminal defense. The expert robbery attorneys at Combs Waterkotte recommend the following steps to anyone facing armed robbery charges in the Chicago area. Exercise your right to remain silent. In armed robbery cases, statements about the incident or any weapons involved can significantly impact the charges and penalties. Avoid discussing any details of the incident with police or anyone else. Even casual comments about whether a weapon was present can be used to support enhancements. Limiting what you say protects you from unintentionally strengthening the prosecution's case. Request an attorney experienced in robbery offenses. Because armed robbery is typically charged as a Class X felony in Illinois, you need an attorney with experience handling serious, high-level cases. Request legal counsel immediately and avoid answering questions until your lawyer is present. An experienced defense attorney will understand how to challenge firearm allegations, sentencing enhancements, and evidentiary issues specific to armed robbery prosecutions in Chicago courts. Preserve any evidence that may disprove weapon use. If possible, take steps to preserve any evidence that may show a weapon was not used or was misidentified. This could include clothing, messages, or information about your whereabouts. Armed robbery charges hinge on whether a weapon was present, so preserving relevant evidence early can be crucial. Your attorney can later use this material to challenge the prosecution's version of events. Avoid contact with alleged victims or witnesses. Reaching out to alleged victims or witnesses after an armed robbery arrest can lead to additional charges like witness intimidation. Even if your intentions are harmless, any contact may be misinterpreted. Courts take these situations seriously, especially in violent felony cases. It is best to avoid all communication and allow your attorney to handle any necessary interactions through proper legal channels. Understand firearm enhancements and sentencing risks. Illinois law imposes strict sentencing enhancements for robberies involving firearms, including significant mandatory add-ons. Understanding these penalties is essential when making decisions about your case. Your attorney can explain how factors like alleged weapon use or injury claims affect your exposure. Being informed helps you weigh your options carefully, including whether to negotiate or proceed to trial. Follow release conditions strictly. If you are released from custody after an armed robbery arrest, the court may impose strict bond conditions. These can include travel restrictions, electronic monitoring, or no-contact orders. Violating these conditions can result in being taken back into custody and may harm your case. carefully following all court-imposed rules demonstrates compliance and helps avoid additional legal complications. Combs Waterkotte is a leading criminal defense law firm serving the entire states of Illinois and Missouri. We have offices in St. Louis, Chicago, Kansas City, Clayton, Branson, and Belleville. We look forward to helping you with your criminal defense attorney needs.